We mainly talk about writing in this class, but there are some times where we need to take a step back and talk about grammar, just like we did with the parts of speech. We're not really going to do it too much with punctuation. You, at some point, should be getting the punctuation guide. If you're at home, the punctuation guide should be listed in the list of resources on iTunes University for the class. But one thing we need to talk about together is a concept in grammar and in English land called person. And person does not mean human being in this case. Anyone know what person is? Think like way back to like 6th grade kind of thing. If you're participating and guessing, just put me on pause. Person is the point of view from which the story is told or essay is written. So it's the point of view from which the information is given. If you went to a school that was heavy on literature, they gave you there were about 5 different points of view, first person omniscient, stuff like that. We're not going to go that deep. There are 3 of them. There's first person, second person, and if you have not guessed by now, third person. These are the ones that we are going to be talking about. And the reason that we need to talk about person is because I'm going to say it over, or substitute, is going to say it over and over and over again. In English 2, we're going to say it over and over and over again. You're going to see this term on all of the PowerPoints. So if you don't know what it is, we're going to be in trouble. So first person is the point of view of the author. So it's when the author is actually involved in the story or the essay or the content. I don't like using the word story because then you guys sometimes might think of creative writing or fiction or something like that. But it's when you, as the writer, are somehow involved in the storytelling or in the essay. So the key words that indicate first person writing are I, me, we, us, mine, our, ours. If you've already watched the pronoun video, I think I missed those when I was listing pronouns. But these are words that indicate we're talking about ourselves. We all kind of know that, right? Here's the problem with first person. It is the least professional of the 3 persons. So when you have more than one human being next to each other, the plural of person is people. When you're talking in English, and I mean like grammar, not language. When you're talking in English land, these are persons, not people. I know it's a little weird. But first person is the least professional. Why do you think? Put me on pause. Talk about it. The answer is a little harsh, and I don't mean it that way. But who cares what you have to say? If a reader doesn't know who you are, and you say, in my opinion, I think, at some point, the reader is going to say, well, who cares what you think? You don't want to have yourself in the essay at any point in time. It's so unprofessional. There are times when first person is allowed. So you need it when you do resumes, because that would just be weird if you didn't. You need it in cover letters. And you need it in something that's called a first-person narrative. So do you remember, like, when you were in school and you would come back after summer break, and the teacher almost always said, okay guys, let's write a paper about what you did on your summer vacation. Remember those? I hated those. The story of what you did over your summer vacation, that's a first person narrative. That's when it's okay to talk about yourself. So for us, in our context of this curriculum, resumes and cover letters and thank you letters are going to be the only times that you might be able to use first person. That's it. I have some students who it takes a while to break yourself out of this and to just use one of these persons up here. So don't feel bad. It's going to take a lot of practice. Once I break you of it, though, hopefully it sticks for a while. I had a nursing student take one of her practical exams, and she was writing her essays, and she wrote all of her essays in third person because I had beaten it out of her that she's not allowed to use first and second person. So we are not using first person. I will tell you when you are allowed to use first person, but it won't be for any of the essays that you're writing. So, second person. Usually people think of the words used in second person before they can kind of think of the definition. So for note-taking's sake, I'm going to keep it the same for you guys. So second person is when the author, which is you guys, is telling the reader what to do. So the words that are involved in second person are you, your, and your. So I have you listed twice because this one could just mean one person, so you. This one could mean you and mean more than one. It's spelled the same way. Your and your, which you are or you're possessive. So these are the words that are involved in second person. Second person can get a little tricky though, because anytime you have a sentence that starts with a verb, it's automatically in second person. So I'm going to write on this side of the board and then I'm going to erase it. So any sentence that starts with a verb, and you're really going to have to keep this in mind for your process essay. So, take out your books, please. How many of you just reached into a bag to take out your books? Obviously, since I can't see you. How many of you just went, oh crap, I didn't bring my book? I didn't say who I was talking about, but I said, take out your books. So, the verb in this sentence, since hopefully you already watched the part of speech clip that I did, the verb in this sentence, or the action, is take. So, what's the subject of the sentence then? So the subject of the sentence is a noun. It's always a noun or a pronoun. And the subject of the sentence is the person or the thing doing the action. So when I said take out your books, who did the action? You guys probably did. You guys. So a lot of students would say books is the subject of the sentence because it's a noun. And you guys are right that it's a noun. But are the books taking anything out? Are the books doing anything? No, not in this sentence. So in this sentence, books can't be the subject. In grammar, when you have a sentence that starts with a verb, the subject of the sentence is always something called an implied you. This is called an implied subject because it's not blatantly stated, it's just implied that you're talking to somebody else. So you is the subject of the sentence. notice that's on our list of bad words for second person. So you have to be really, really careful of this, especially when you start a sentence with the phrase, and then this is your main sentence. You have to be really, 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 really careful of this. Okay, so second person is not professional either. How much do you enjoy people you don't know telling you what to do? Not very much. So sometimes second person, starting sentences off with verbs, sometimes it can come across a little rude because typically you use second person to give orders or commands or to reprimand sometimes or to punish. So think about how many times your mom or dad would have said, "Clean up your room." Clean is a verb. You clean up your room. So sometimes second person can come across to a reader as really harsh, and it can kind of sound like this, like you're doing this to them. So you don't want to do that. That's why we're going to avoid second person. So if you haven't figured out already that if we're not allowed to use first person and we're not allowed to use second person, we are going to use third person. So third person is when the author is not involved at all in the content. The author's job is just to talk about it. So in third person, the author is just presenting the material. That's it. They're not interjecting themselves in the story. They're not commanding the reader to do anything. They're just given the information. I really don't like that this skeleton is taller than I am and I'm wearing heels right now. So, as far as words you could use, the honest, but what could sometimes sound like sarcastic answer, for third person, the words that are okay in third person are anything that's not first or second person. So if it's not in this list and it's not in that list, it's okay to use. So, any noun, so any common noun, any proper noun, any of those pronouns that aren't on this list. So hopefully you're taking notes. If not, you really need to rewind this or pause this and write down what's up here because you're going to need these lists again. If you can think of any words in first person I've left out, please add them. So any of the pronouns, he, she, it, they, them, her, his, hers, theirs, their, those kinds. Remember the ones we were talking about when we were talking about pronouns? Those are the words that are going to fall in third person. So you have a lot of options in third person. So let's go back to the example of take out your books. Let's put that in third person. So what I need to do to convert that sentence from second person to third person, and I'll write it down again. No, I don't really need to. You should have it in your notes. To put that into third person, what I need to do is figure out a subject. So I need to have a person or thing doing an action other than you. So I said, take out your books. So since I would be talking to a room of students, I could say, the students need to take out their books. The students took out their books, depending on what tense I want to use. The hygienists need to take out their books, because you guys will be hygienists in training. The adults need to take out their books. So what you basically need to do, if you're stuck in second person, you need to figure out something from this column to replace the you as the subject of the sentence. And then you'll be able to take it out of second person and be in third person. This is the most professional. And this is the one that we're going to use all the time throughout this class, unless I tell you otherwise. So highlight the bejesus out of this one. Third person is the most important. You're going to use that all the time. The reason it's the most professional is because you as the author, your opinions aren't in it at all. You're just presenting the facts. That's it. It's kind of like being a lawyer. You present the facts and you let the jury decide. A lawyer never, ever, ever says, well, I think he's innocent, even though I'm trying to prosecute him. Or a lawyer never says, I think he did it, even though I'm trying to get him off. A lawyer never, ever, ever does that. So you just want to present the material as if you're disconnected from it, kind of. And let the audience feel however they want to feel about it. This is not about you, unless certain circumstances, and you don't want to tell them what to do. It can come across as rude, it can come across as harsh sometimes. It can make you look bad if you kind of don't know what you're talking about, or if your directions aren't clear. So this is where we're hanging out. And we're going to talk about person, and we're going to say person a lot through the rest of this class, through English 2, and when you have me again in communications. We're going to talk about it when you have me in computer class. So this is a term you need to get familiar with and get used to.